Now I see that in the program it's just about fostering innovation, and in terms of being short, I jump over the growth, because there I have just silly question, and I go on to the serious answers provided by the UNECA, and I have an interesting quote here. There is Africa in almost all technology. The raw materials probably come from Africa, get to China, get processed, and come back. Mm-hmm. And that highlights a problem that Africa certainly has, that is goods and resources are not processed, are not produced here, and go elsewhere. And I also quote my chairman here: there should be more new businesses in Africa than new NGOs. So in terms of growth, that's what we have to say. In essence. In terms of innovation, I think Africa needs homegrown innovation, and the African Innovation Foundation is prepared to support homegrown innovation. What does that mean? We see the capacity to innovate of an innovator by knowing what is needed and able to transform this into demand. This is an interesting and an important concept for me since years. I lived in Latin America 6 years, and there I see also innovation happening this way. It is actually the local leadership is needed of people who know their environment and know how to address the needs of their environment and transform it into demand. And that's one definition of innovation that we have. We have seen in the process, together with UNECA, several types of African innovators in the process of this Innovation Prize for Africa. And I would call the first group the kind of the social entrepreneur type of innovators, not necessarily the high-tech innovator, but the kind of innovator, entrepreneur who can cause social change, can change the local environment, can change the life, especially in populations that live in poverty. The second group is kind of the researcher type of innovators who are linked with universities and with research, and for them actually the world is flat because they have access to all the innovations and inventions happening elsewhere in the world. They are connected, they get it. They get the information they need. And then the group 3 would be the garage type of innovators. You know, there are some famous garage type innovators outside Africa, such as Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and they have really transformed whole areas of technology, not just technology, but our lives. And we are trying to find these innovators, and I think the process teaches us that these kinds of innovators are not yet really visible, and that's kind of the dormant assets that we are also talking about, and that we have to find and to kind of foster and steer in Africa. So I would like to, if time allows, and I don't know if time allows, quickly, with the help of Afrock, play a little video that highlights maybe the psychology of innovation. So you open it. This is technology. Is it hearable? Now you see in the background that Jean Moreau is walking this street, and he directly improvisates. He invents, creates the music while looking at the face of Jean Moreau walking. And a little bit later, you have Louis Malle explaining what is happening. And what's happening is that in the instant, Miles Davis creates the music for this movie. So this is really pure improvisation and creativity. Okay, Afro, I have to get back to my presentation. So Louis Malle explains that this is something never done before. That this is something never done before. That the music to this film was not written down. It was really taped while making it, and so I would like to use this as a metaphor for the conditions for innovations to happen. Because the invention of the music, the creation of the music is a creative act, but it's not yet innovation. What is innovative in that 1957 movie is the collaboration between Louis Malle and Miles Davis, who make this way of working together something never seen in the world of movies. I don't know if you know the movie. Yes, exactly. It's elevated to the gallows, ascenseur à l'échafaud. This is a milestone movie for me, and really, I've been an opera singer before, and so I wanted to use this example, music example, to show what innovation actually means. And there are some elements, and the first is obviously the past of Miles Davis. Without education, without training at the Juilliard School in New York, he would never been able to do this. Therefore, we still need basic education in Africa, probably. We need health, we need all the conditions to make innovators able to reach the point of being innovators, of innovating something. And then we have 4 elements. The P stands for peers or partners or rivals or competitors. Here Miles Davis meets with Louis Malle, and that's the combination that leads to innovation. We need access to knowledge, to capital, to mentoring. I think the movie was well financed by the French state at that time. We need the space to develop innovation. This is physical space, this is also virtual space. Nowadays, as I said, the world is flat and Africa is getting flatter. It's not really flat yet, but it's getting flatter in terms of being connected to the rest of the world and having access, physical, virtual access to technology and to invention and to innovation. And also, in terms of space, the regulatory environment is needed. And then we need time. And this is probably the most important criteria. Innovation cannot be ordered. It cannot be ordered, mandated, and then half an hour later you have an innovation, or half a year later you have an innovation. No, you need time to play, to dream, to be, and that's what was happening. Now, the role of foundations, and this is my second last slide already. The role of foundations in this, and I would like to cite a quote from Helmut Anheier in Creative Philanthropy. Oh. Yes, remind me later. So he says, foundations are uniquely placed to bring genuinely creative, innovative ideas to the intransigent problems of our age, because they are free of market and political constraints. There is no taxpayer and there's no shareholder behind foundations who tell them what to do, and we are not accountable to taxpayers and shareholders. We are accountable, but to founders and to the trends, obviously, but not to shareholders and taxpayers. And so foundations are actually able to think the unthinkable, ignoring boundaries, and they are the societal risk takers. And that's how we see our roles. And also our role with this Innovation Prize for Africa, where we take a longer view, and this is not just a one-year shot, and we have an excellent partnership established with UNECA and are committed to do this at least 5 years, and then most probably continue. So when you see, we take the freedom as a foundation to bet on innovation. This is just the choice of this foundation located in Zurich, to bet on innovation. We have been created by African citizens, and we are very much taking the approach to foster innovations at different levels, not just a project level where we support a project and then we have some impact maybe on the project level, but we really try also to steer and foster this change at the systems level. And with systems, it's all the ecosystems that you were talking about, the innovation ecosystems. And with this one example, I would also like to mention other example we have where we actually don't attack or we don't support initiatives at the systems level, but rather at the programmatic and policy level, where we help governments to in Africa to control their financial transactions and therefore create the conditions for economic trade to happen. And with this, I am already done. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Now, as we switch over to Emeka, who will be coming next, David, I didn't want to ask you this question because at the end of your presentation, that's when you made mention of governments. Much of it has been, of your presentation has suggested that, you know, the process of innovation is driven by entrepreneurs, by people with great ideas. Is that to say that, as some people, many people believe, that government really has not been, the experience of the past is that governments in Africa have not been facilitators of innovation, and there is an important need to change that?
I definitely think that governments have an important role to enable the environment for innovators. That's their key role. Mm-hmm. My impression is also, and I worked in development cooperation and also in government-driven development cooperation from the perspective of donors. Now is the time that we don't need any more, or that the relation between NGOs and entrepreneurs is changing. We should support private sector development. Also from donors' perspective, I would commend that, and also for governments.
Thank you very much. Emeka, you have the floor.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm more than pleased to... Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm more than pleased to be here. What I'll be talking about, which piggybacks on what David and Ida speaks to, is how we look at what I and others call a culture of production, a culture that speaks to an innate emergent ability to be creative. Creativity and the connection it has to innovation is something that is not necessarily dictated. It's something that comes from within. We cannot, within Africa, appropriate it from elsewhere. It's something that we have to see it where it exists and recognize it, amplify it, and where we can, catalyze it. The first quote I have on the screen is one that was made by the American President Barack Obama. It caught my eye because this was his inaugural speech to the US population, and he was essentially speaking to something that in an advanced as a society as America is just as relevant to Americans as it should be to Africans. And the key element of that quote that I think we should focus on is what I like to characterize the makers of things. And when I use the term the makers of things, I'm not necessarily saying they have to be physical. They could be non-physical as much as they are physical. But I think it's important for us to understand that in any society, if we are to lift large numbers of our citizens out of poverty, ultimately, it's those makers of things that will provide the revenues that will allow us to do so. They form the foundation of everything else. The first slide I have on stage essentially shows what happens at the basis of making of things, which is the making of the tools that make things that make everything else.